Welcome to my video on Unicom's Model View Controller, UMVC. This is the Java version. Just give you a little history on why I started this project. A few years back, I wanted to get into programming. Basically started learning PHP, and then after that I came across some of the MVC frameworks. I had no clue at all why we needed to use these frameworks, but I started trying to learn some of the very popular ones such as Zen and CodeIgniter. Did try to learn as much as I can. Later on I went to university, did a master's, and I started studying quite extensively programming, learned a number of languages, and then I decided, well, let me do a research on rapid application development, which I've done. I've built a PHP framework, a very easy, lightweight framework. I started gearing it towards agile development. So I've made a very useful PHP framework. And then I started to work as a Java developer, and I thought, okay, let me take some of these concepts into my workplace. And in Java you have some very popular frameworks, MVC frameworks such as Spring, which is built on the Java Enterprise Edition. So it's supposed to make Java Enterprise Edition a lot easier to develop with. So I obviously had to learn quite a large amount of Spring, and that's what I did. So I've built it on top of that, and I've built it to supplement Spring. You might be more advanced than me and might look at this and say, right, okay, what you're doing, we could do the same thing in Spring, or we could do it in plain Java EE. So if you can, great, please let me know how to do it, because I've been trying to do it for the past 5 months and I couldn't. And I spoke to a lot of senior developers in the company that I work in, which is quite a huge company, one of the biggest anyway, and they didn't have a clue. In fact, they told me it was impossible. And so what I've done here is something that was impossible, and I made it possible just by trying. So and I'm not that great, but have a look at what I've done and please leave me some comments. So let's have a look at the Java version. This is just the beginning of the project, so don't expect anything huge. What you can see here, what I've got is, when you start in the project, you would have a folder called application, and inside here you can add a number of features. Now here I've just listed things here: error, login, main, market, and register. If we look inside the register, you've got a controller, you've got a model, and then you've got a view. Likewise, in every single page has its own micro controller, model, and view. The controllers are what I call slave controllers, and they are controlled by a master controller. So every application effectively in the background has a master controller which controls everything, and then delegates the work to the slave controllers, and those slave controllers basically manage that little component, if you want to put it that way, or you think of it as a company, and you've got different departments, and in each department there's one manager. So and then you've got the president, who's in charge of the whole company. So that's basically the structure. And then if you're familiar with Java Enterprise Edition or Spring, you would recognize the web XML, see something that they're familiar with, whereby you've got servlet. Here I'm sort of defining it as Unicom, I'm calling it Unicom, and a servlet mapping. Here you've just said about just the the backslash, so the root of the website, and that's when it sort of triggers off that servlet. Okay, so it's very basic, very simple. Right, next folder you see, if I close this down, there's only 2 folders really. Ignore the stuff down here, I'll talk about that later. We're focusing on the Java, so let's get back to it. Right, so you've got here UMVC, and this is basically the plumbing behind my framework. It's hidden from the user or the developer, and once I finish it and I put it on GitHub for people to download and play with it, this would be a jar file, so it wouldn't even exist. Right, so let's run this application. As I've already clicked the play, it's already running. I'm just going to open it in the browser. Alright, so it's loading now, and here you go. Right, so it's load the Apache Tomcat, and it says hello register, we are in the run method. Now what I've done is I've said, right, okay, if there isn't any page mentioned, or just go to the register. So it's gone directly, it routed the call to this class here, which is located in this package called application register controller slave controller. So it's basically gone inside here, inside there, and it's loaded this slave controller, which, as you can see, that's it, right? And that's the size of it. It's just a very simple page, and as you can see, you all we've done is just these few lines, and this is what we get as a result. So it basically renders this site, and it just prints these things here, right? Okay, so it says hello in the class, we're calling, and hello register up here. So what happens if we change the route? So if we go to main, click on main, and it says hello main. So now it's calling a different controller inside the main package. So it's going into this folder here, this controller, and it's calling this instead. Okay, in fact, we don't even need this line. Let's delete that. Okay, so what happens if we want to introduce something to the application? Right, okay, let's introduce a new folder, and we call it Sammy, right? The easiest way to do it, if you want to do this, we just copy one of the folders, this has got the whole entire thing, and we just paste it. Okay, so basically it created a folder there, and it's got a little warning, right? So I'm going to solve this in the future videos. When I created the project before, it did it automatically. It said refactor, and then it just does it automatically. But what happens is, because we copied it, it's copied the wrong package name. Okay, so what we'll do, we'll rename this first. Let's rename it something, let's call it something like Sammy or something like that, right? Okay, so now you can see it says apply rename on comments, and I'll just say refactor. Let's see what happens. Okay, so basically what it's done is change the name of the package, and then we just say save. As you can see, it automatically clears the errors once the package name is corrected. This should be all done automatically, and now what it's doing is deploying to the server. Now you notice that I didn't even touch the web XML or anything else. All I've done is I've copied one of the folders, I've renamed it, it tells you to refactor and it changes that, or you could have done it manually, and just make sure that it maps to the correct one, so it's the right package. And that's what I've done. I didn't touch the controller, I didn't touch the view, I didn't touch anything else. Okay, and as you can see, all it says is hello, and then this is get URL, so it gets the URL and puts the name there, and then it gets the class. So if this works, then this is all it is, right? Okay, let's go to the application now, and again, because we're in the root, it says register, and if I just basically type home, well, let's see what happens. It says, well, okay, request failed, and it says class not found exception, application home controller. So we don't have a controller called home. But let's type something that we've just created. We've created something called Sammy, a folder called Sammy. So we type that in, press enter. Let's see what happens. And as you can see up here, it says hello Sammy, hello, we are in run method, and now it's calling application sammy.controller.slave controller. So that works. Okay, now regarding the error that we got previously, we could easily have coded something in, so then if the controller doesn't exist or the folder doesn't exist, it would reroute the call to something else, like an error controller or something else. It can go back home or something like that, or say page is not available. So we could have displayed something instead of this exception error, but I've left that on purpose, so at least you can see what happens at this stage when there isn't a controller or there isn't a anything that handles this. As you can see, we don't have home here, so let's rectify this situation. Let's create a folder. This is a second way of doing this. Let's create a folder called home. So we'll just create a folder. We're doing it the slow way, and I'm just going to type home like so. So I've done that. So this is just another place where it creates packages. So I've got home here, and all I have to do is I create 3 folders: model, view, controller. Alright, so now we've got these 3 folders like so. Right, let's just have a look at something that does exist. So we've got a login and we've got slave controller. I can just copy that and then paste it in here, refactor copy. Okay, so I've created it and it should refactor by itself, so it should give it the right name. So it says application home controller, so that works. The only thing that we need for at this stage is a view. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this as it is. Every view is called index at this stage, and I'm just going to paste it in here. Okay, and that's it. So this is basically all we need to do, and it now should work. However, just to show you something else really quickly, if we go into UMVC, if you're just wondering how on earth is it generating this beautiful web pages from just a few lines, this is where I've got the Bootstrap library, just down here, the views, and I've got the CSS. If you look here, this is all the Bootstrap theme and the fonts and the JavaScript, and it's referred not even from here, it's referred from the view itself, just in here. Okay, so now let's just run this. So now you see down here is saying deploying. Okay, as you can see now it's gone back to that main page again. If we just type now home, remember we had an error with this, so now look at that, it says hello home. If we just check on Sammy again, hello Sammy, and if we check on what else did we have, error, let's say error, and it says hello error here. Okay, so as you can see, it goes to the appropriate slave controller as well. So in later videos we'll see how we can sort of modify these pages. Now we've got the routing system working, and we'll add a model, and we're talking about ORM, object relationship mapping, to the database. So basically you create a class, a person or something, and it automatically generates the tables that connects that to the class. So any changes to the class, it automatically changes the tables as well, or like vice versa. If you already got a database, you can map it into classes and objects. So we'll see how that goes in later videos, but for now I'm just giving you a little quick demonstration of the routing system, and I'll explain to you as well in a future video how that works, the mechanics behind it, and the code will be available on GitHub like I said.